So today's topic is communal riots in India. As much as India is a shining case of unity in diversity, several innocent people die each year due to the lack of unity in this diversity. One of the most prominent features of the pluralist society like India is communalism. What is communalism? A belief that people who follow the same religion have common secular interests. Communalism, in a broad sense, means a strong attachment to one's own community. In popular discourse in India, it is understood as unhealthy attachment to one's own religion. A communal riot is a violent disturbance of the peace by an assembly or body of persons. Communal riot generally दो communities के बीच में होता है, two distinct communities. And Indian context में देखा गया है कि communal riot generally दो communities के बीच में होती है, that is Hindu and Muslim. Evolution of communalism in Indian society. कम्युनलिज्म का रूट्स इंडिया में आता है इंडिया की रिलीजियस एंड कल्चरल डाइवर्सिटी से. क्या आपको पता है कि एंशियंट इंडिया में लोग पीसफुली अपना फेथ मेंटेन करते थे, फॉलो करते थे. बुद्धा was perhaps the first Indian prophet who gave the concept of secularism. Meanwhile, kings like Ashoka followed a policy of peace and religious tolerance. प्रॉब्लम स्टार्ट हुआ मिडिवल इंडिया में. मिडिवल इंडिया witnessed the arrival of Islam in India, marked by occasional occurrence of violence such as Muhammad Ghazni's destruction of Hindu temples and Muhammad Ghori's attack on Hindus, Jains and Buddhists. मुगल एम्पायर में भी कुछ लीडर्स काफ़ी टॉलरेंट थे एंड कुछ लीडर्स काफ़ी इंटॉलरेंट थे. Rulers like Akbar and Sher Shah Suri followed the religious policy of toleration towards different cultures and tradition practiced across the country. However, some rulers like Aurangzeb were among the least tolerant towards other religious practices. Okay, now let us discuss the most important reason behind the emergence of communalism in India. ब्रिटिश इंडिया में जो डिवाइड एंड रूल पॉलिसी था ब्रिटिशर्स का, वो सबसे ज़्यादा मेन रीज़न है फॉर कम्युनलिज्म इन इंडिया. मुस्लिम्स काफ़ी बैकवर्ड थे ब्रिटिश इंडिया में. उसी का फ़ायदा ब्रिटिशर्स ने अच्छे से उठाया. बैकवर्ड मुस्लिम कम्युनिटी का फ़ायदा उठाया हिंदू नेशनलिस्ट मूवमेंट को सप्रेस करने के लिए. गवर्नमेंट यूज्ड पर्सन्स लाइक सर सैयद अहमद खान टू काउंटर द ग्रोइंग इन्फ्लुएंस ऑफ द कांग्रेस. Sir Syed Ahmed Khan had a broad-minded and reformist outlook initially, but later he started supporting the colonial government, exhorting the Muslim masses to stay away from the Congress and not to get politicized. He also started talking of separate interests of Hindus and Muslims. The second reason is the rise of communal and fundamentalist parties. Several religious organizations were formed by the Hindu and Muslim communities whose goals were poles apart by now. These were organizations that began to play communal politics. It is important to know that on the surface they declared agenda as different, but deep within, their agenda and activities were contrary to what they were claiming. Issues like cow slaughter, Urdu-Hindi conflict, Dashera and Muharram falling in the same month, clashes for procession, etc. often led to clashes. Petty issues were taken up and were used in such a manner which demonized the other community. Hindi idiom was used to its day-to-day political agitation. For instance, Bal Gangadhar Tilak used the Ganesh Puja and Shivaji Mahotsav to propagate nationalism. Incidentally, association with God Ganesh and Shivaji was used as a tool by communal Muslim to alert Muslims. This was also a reason behind non-participation of Muslims in large numbers in Indian National Congress till 1919. In fact, in the early decades, only about 8 to 9% of members of the Indian National Congress were Muslims. Prominents like Bankim Chandra Chatterjee often cited Muslims as foreigners in their writings. All these incidents played with the emotions of the Muslims and alienated them from the Hindus. How important is religion for people? Religion has historically influenced Indian society on a political, cultural and economic level. 2011 इंडियन सेंसस में ये कहा गया था कि 79.8% Indians identified as Hindu, 14.2% are Muslim and 2.3% are identified as Christians. Hinduism, the most widely followed religion in India, can be interpreted diversely. Islam is the second most followed religion in India, influencing the country's society, culture, architecture, and artistry. In India, despite partition on the basis of religion, the country resolved to be a secular state and promulgated its constitution in 1950, accepting equal rights for all citizens irrespective of their caste, creed, and race. Some communal rights cases in India. The two worst communal riots in the history of Gujarat has taken place in 1969 and 2002. Congress was in power in 1969 while Modi was chief minister in 2002. In 2002, Gujarat witnessed communal riots when violence was triggered by burning a train in Godhra. In October 1984, the anti-Sikh riot broke out after the assassination of Indira Gandhi, where more than 4,000 Sikhs were killed in Delhi, Uttar Pradesh and other parts of India. The Shah Banu controversy in 1985 and the Babri Masjid Ram Janmabhoomi controversy became powerful tool for intensifying communalism in the 80s. The communal violence touched its peak in December 1992 when the Babri Masjid was demolished by the right-wing parties. Factors responsible for communal violence. Number 1, divisive politics. Politicians अपने political gains के लिए, अपने vote bank के लिए religious and cultural differences को use करते हैं for their own good. इकोनॉमिक स्टैग्नेशन के वजह से, अनइवन डेवलपमेंट, क्लास डिवीजन एंड पॉवर्टी की वजह से जो कॉमन मैन होते हैं वो लोग पॉलिटिकल मैनिपुलेशन में इजीली फंस जा सकते हैं. पॉलिटिशियंस एंड पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज अपने फ़ायदे के लिए कुछ इनोसेंट लोगों को कम्युनल वायलेंस में फंसाते हैं, उन्हें इनकरेज करते हैं कि आप लोग कम्युनल वायलेंस करिए और बदले में पैसे देकर चुप करा देते हैं. मीडिया में और सोशल मीडिया में फेक रूमर्स फैला के भी आजकल पॉलिटिशियंस अपना फ़ायदा के लिए लोगों के बीच में दंगे फसाद करा रहे हैं. डेवलपमेंट ग्रोथ नहीं देकर लोगों को एथनिसिटी एंड ट्रेडिशनल वैल्यूज़ एंड रिलीजन के बीच में फंसा दिया जाता है. इंडिया में ये देखा गया है कि जो डेवलप्ड एरियाज़ है वहाँ कम कम्युनल वायलेंस के केसेस सामने आते हैं कंपेयर टू अनडेवलप्ड एरियाज इन इंडिया. मेजर्स टू डील विद कम्युनलिज्म. Increase in the representation of the minority community and weaker sections in all wings of law enforcement. A proactive approach by National Foundation for Communal Harmony, the body responsible for promoting communal harmony is needed. There is a need for minority welfare schemes to be launched and implemented efficiently by administration to address the challenges and various forms of discrimination faced by them in jobs, housing, and daily life. Emphasis on value-oriented education with focus on values of peace, non-violence, compassion, secularism and humanism, as well as developing scientific temper and rationalism as core values in children, both in schools, college, universities, can prove vital in preventing communal feeling. One of the famous freedom fighter Bhagat Singh said, I quote, "These mutual killings have not been done to someone found guilty of some crime, but for the simple reason that someone was either Hindu, Sikh or Muslim. Just being a Hindu or a Sikh was a sufficient cause of being killed by Muslims, and likewise to be a Muslim was sufficient cause for him to be killed. In this situation, God alone can save India." According to him, the real duty of newspapers was to impart education, eradicate narrow-mindedness in people, put an end to communal feelings, encourage mutual understanding, and create a common Indian nationalism. But they have turned their main business to spread ignorance, preach narrowness, create prejudice, lead to rioting, and destroying Indian common nationalism.